And hello everyone to this first step-by-step video from our new album Haunted Minds, which was released a couple of days before. So let's go straight into the album with the opener song, which is Destiny. This is of course the opener for the whole album, and so it starts with an epic introduction. And it's a mix of modern synthesizer elements together with a deep and epic brass section, a little bit in the style of modern Hollywood movie scores from Hans Zimmer, for example. So I like the idea to have the introduction combined with the first song and not to separate these both elements, introduction and the first song, mainly to transport the mood of the introduction right into the song. I think it helps to keep the tempo and also the scale, and better blends everything together. After the introduction, of course, we are coming straight to the main part of the song, which is an up-tempo song, a kind of power metal song. Also, it has some thrash elements in it, in the double bass and rhythm guitar parts which repeat all over the song. So there's a lot of drive and energy in the whole song, and I think it's a great start to open the whole album, and I hope you also like it the same as we do. Coming to the lyrics, we always rely on classic stories from ancient authors, short stories, novel, other texts. For the last two albums we were inspired by poems and short stories from Edgar Allan Poe, but I thought it was enough with Poe. Everything was told from his stories in our music, so we switched over to a companion of Poe, which is Nathaniel Hawthorne, also an American writer from the 19th century, who wrote a lot of short stories, also some novels, also in the same style as Poe did. And so I choose around about 10 songs, which I used for our current album. And for this first song, it was the song "The Threefold Destiny." And this is literally about a person or a man who's traveling all over the world to find and to search the sense of life, or even his destiny. But of course he has no success with it, so he returned home, and at the end of the journey, or you can also say at the end of his life, he finds out that the true meaning and his destiny is not far beyond, somewhere outside. It is very close, mainly inside from himself, everyone else, or from everyone you can tell. So it's where you love each other, you take care of each other, for example, and that's the main conclusion. Rise up high into the glowing sky. Fountain of Youth. This is the second single we released and the first music video from the new album. Beginning with a very epic choir singing right from the start on, and afterwards leading into some powerful riffing, driven forward by the whole rhythm section. It was the first song I wrote for our new album. It contained all the main elements from all the album. For example, the alternating clean vocals from Julia and me, the catchy chorus parts, also some growling elements cool headbanging riffs, for example. So we thought that would be a great song to release. So that's the reason why we chose it for our music video. The lyrics were inspired by the short story Dr. Heidegger's Experiment, also from Hawthorne. Here I changed the title because I wanted to get more to the core of the story, which is the quest for eternal youth. So of course this is not it's impossible. This kind of quest, it's a failure. And so what's very interesting to me that Hawthorne wrote the story around about 200 years ago, and still it's very up to date, this topic in our modern times. So it seems to be like this is a very important topic for mankind through all the centuries.
Where the truth is bigger than life, fight with action within.
The Unforgivable Sin, a very powerful 6/8 song with a guest appearance of Henning Basse, our good friend, ex-singer from Metallium and Sons of Seasons and Firewind, for example. And he's also my long-term and long year-lasting vocal coach, and also the vocal producer from our last 3 albums. So he also had some guest appearances on the last 2 albums, but only for some backing parts. And now we find it was time for a more important role from his voice in our music, and so we did a collaboration with him for 1 song, and we presented him a couple of songs, and so he chose this one for his voice. And I think it's really a great benefit for the whole album, but especially for this song, to have Henning sing, especially when it comes to this amazing chorus part and his lines he's performing there. So yeah, also in the C part, Henning shows all his amazing vocal skills. You should have to listen to it if you haven't already listened to it. Then we are very happy to have Henning on the album. It's a great honor to us. The lyrics were inspired by the short story called Ethan Brandt. It's a name of a guy who a very criminal mind who written in his point of view, who's looking for the almost cruel and unforgivable sin on earth. Of course, this could lead into some kind of philosophical or religious discussion about sin and forgiveness. We don't answer this question in just 1 song, and neither does the original story. This is far too complex, and in all these discussions there is not only a black or white, to be sure, even if some guys will tell you they found the real truth. Don't believe these guys. So also a little bit different from the short story. In our lyrics I didn't tell what's exactly this crime could be, so I leave it up to you to think about what might be the unforgivable sin, or if there is some kind of sin which is unforgivable. The Birthmark, our 3rd single and 2nd music video, which was released right on the day of our album release. It starts with an epic choir singing a Latin phrase from the ancient author called Horace. Mors ultima linea rerum est. Google it. And then straight going forward into a powerful part, repeating the choir and keeping up the tempo almost throughout the whole song. Despite from my favorite part, which is the beginning or the first half of the first chorus line, where we have a very reduced instrumental setting and just Julia's voice performing very intensively and very touching before the song enters the whole and mighty and power chorus part. So it was also a very early written song, and for those of you who have joined some of our live shows on tour with Jupiter and Lordi on their European tours in the last years, you might recognize this song because we had it in our live set already. The song's lyrics were inspired by the story, also called The Birthmark by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's closely related to Fountain of Youth because it's not about the eternal youth, but finding perfectness and also everlasting beauty. For example, with body improvements or reducing any kind of flaws like birthmarks. And again, like I said for Fountain, it's quite astonishing how modern Hawthorne's topics were 200 years ago, in times where there was no beauty industry and also no kind of Instagram filters.
Hidden dreams and hidden treasures, hidden secrets everywhere.
Castles in the Air. The song is based on triplets pushing the tempo forward through the whole song. And in the verse parts we used some semi-notes downward steps. Well, okay, both is especially interesting for the music theory nerds out there. So coming to the more obvious parts, for example, in the chorus we have a very catchy line which opened up in the second half to some very great vocal harmonies. And in the C part there is a kind of a twist where we changed a little bit into a kind of melodic death metal part, which is makes very fun to sing and play on the guitar, so I'm looking forward to playing this live one day. The lyrics were inspired by the short story Peter Goldthwaite's Treasure by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And here Hawthorne used a very speaking name for his protagonist. This guy Peter is looking for his whole life for an old family gold treasure, where he believes that there is a treasure, and you can imagine that this is, of course, a mistake. In our lyrics, I kept this a little bit more up level, and I'm not so into the storytelling part. It's more about, in general, it's about people who try to catch unreachable goals and of course build up castles in the air. And in the meantime, while they're doing this, they lose everything which they really own, which can be friends and family and money and so on.
The